My name is Lydia Boss, and my pronouns are she, her. I am one of the program co-directors at Artist Trust, and I'm really happy to be here with you all tonight to talk about building an artist website. And we have a lot of different things that we're going to cover, and there should be time for question and answer at the end. I am here on my own this evening, so I appreciate your understanding as I navigate hosting the workshop and also administering the chat and other things like that. I'll do my very best to keep an eye on the chat, but if we make it to the end of our time, I can always look back at the chat and ensure that I answer your questions there as well. I'm just going to dive right into sharing my screen, if that is okay. Let's see here. I would like to begin this workshop. Let's see here, also trying to keep an eye on participants. I'm going to begin with our land and labor acknowledgements. And I'll just dive right in here. For our land acknowledgement at Artist Trust, we acknowledge that we do statewide work, and that work is done on land stolen from Native and Indigenous people. Our office is on Duwamish land, and I too am currently on Duwamish land and recognize that they were the first people here and were forced to move. Understanding our place in history and understanding how we can better support Indigenous communities is ongoing work. And then for our labor acknowledgement, we acknowledge that we benefit from the prosperity of the United States, which was built on the labor of enslaved people. Please join us in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for the descendants of those who built this country. Okay. Thank you all. With that, let me see if I can change my presentation mode here and still see you all. All right, there we go. Can everyone see this okay? Just like a thumbs up or a little acknowledgement.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so just in case anyone here may not be familiar with Artist Trust, I really just wanted to give a little introduction into who we are and what we do. Artist Trust, we're a nonprofit organization. We're based in Seattle, Washington, and we serve artists across Washington state. Our mission is really to support artists of all disciplines to create a more vibrant and equitable arts ecosystem here in Washington. Our first grants were given in 1987, with the org being founded in 86. And really, artists are at the very center of all of the work that we do. And again, just so pleased to be here with all of you this evening. In terms of a little bit more about us as an organization, these are our values. And I really wanted to begin the workshop tonight by addressing our values, which were really created in collaboration with artists from across the state. You can see here, we are a community. We see artists as leaders. We share power and resources. We earn trust, and we engage in continued learning. And if you're interested in learning more about how Artist Trust sets these values into action, you can read more about each of them on our website. So a little bit about what the heck we're going to do here together this evening. This is going to be an hour-long workshop where I'm going to walk through different tips about building your artist website and developing your online presence. So you'll learn about best practices when it comes to creating a successful website. We're going to talk about things like domain name, how to choose a template that's right for you. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about developing your visual identity and how that can translate into consistency across your website. Again, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but we should have time for a nice Q&A So please feel free to use the chat or hold your questions for discussion at the end of our time together. So I think it's really good to start at the beginning with a really simple question, which is, why should I build an artist website? Websites can be great for artists at different stages of their career. And I think that there are a lot of different reasons to build a website, right? Um, Creating and sharing your hard work as a creative, kind of with an infinite audience, you have this really unique opportunity where through the creation of your own artist website, you are in control of the narrative about your work and about your practice. And that's kind of a unique thing to have, right? With an online presence, you and your work can be found and seen and shared by innumerable people. And there's something very powerful about that. And really, depending on your goals, your website could potentially be a source for direct income, right? If that's the path that you're looking to walk, a website can be a wonderful tool for e-commerce and creating a place where you can reach customers, right? It can be used, it used to be that great art was only discovered by galleries. Maybe written manuscripts were just chosen by publishers. And really, these days, quality content of all different kinds can really be discovered firsthand by ordinary people online. And there's something really exciting about that. But of course, we have to sort of approach the opportunity with a lot of intention. Um, because there's no longer a barrier between artists and the masses, if you have an online presence, you have the potential to reach a lot more people with your work. So even a single image or a blog post potentially could receive thousands of views in a very short time frame, and be seen by vast numbers of prospective clients, admirers, people who are interested in connecting with the message that you are trying to share when it comes to your work, or potentially investing in your work, which is very exciting. And again, depending on your goals, a website can really impact the trajectory of your career, or it could simply be a great place to showcase your work. And either way, there's a lot to be gained by creating an artist website. So these three questions I think of as being a wonderful starting point to sort of help you to get a clear idea of your goals. When you're imagining the way that your site is going to function, and you're thinking of like, what is my intention with this platform? I think it's really important for us to begin with, who am I? What is my practice? And how do I need this site to function, right? So again, thinking about your goals and what you want to get from this website. Is this a portfolio? Purely a portfolio, purely a place where folks can see your artwork? Is this a store? Is this a place where people can purchase your work? Or is this, some kind of combination of these things? Do you have a blog that supports, upcoming events and some narrative that you want to share about your practice? Do I share process and insights, and other things that can help to connect with different audiences? These are all good questions. And I'll say too, like in our time together, I'm going to try really hard not to be too prescriptive. Each of us has a different artistic practice. And hopefully that means that we have different goals coming into this work, which hopefully these questions can be something to kind of catapult you toward, answers that are unique to you and the development of a website that feels authentic to you. So to answer these questions about who you are as an artist, and what is going to speak to your truest self on your site, I also think that these can really directly influence you creating an online presence that links back to your artistic practice and helps people to feel like the site really translates back to your work and the vision for your work. So I sent a worksheet in my email earlier, and I'll drop it again in the chat momentarily. And what I would love to do is just spend 5 minutes together identifying some of our goals for maybe this workshop, sure, but just kind of our websites in general. There are 3 different questions. They should be really, there's no right or wrong. This is really a place for exploration. And the 3 prompts are: what are your goals for your potential website? So thinking about, some of these questions that I've already posed, like, do I need this to be a store? Is this purely a place where people can read my work or see my work, experience my work? Is this a place where they learn about upcoming events, shows that I'm having, etc.? I also think it's important for us to identify words that describe our artistic practices and using those words as a jumping off point for also adjectives that you would like to describe your finished website. So, thinking about if your practice is, really maximalist and experimental and kind of loud, how does that translate into the experience that viewers have when they come to your website? What are the connections? What are the adjectives that we can use to kind of have a through line from our creative practice to our website? Thanks, y'all. This was a fun exercise. I hope answering some of these questions got like some of the juices flowing a little bit. It can be hard, to put ourselves in the position of like, okay, like really, I got to dig into these goals. So I appreciate you going through that um, exercise with me. So now that we've maybe taken a little bit of time to identify what some of our objectives are, what our goals are, I think it's important for us to take some time to talk about this thing that I call your personal brand and visual identity. Many people on this call are visual artists. Some people may not be visual artists on this call, right? Some people might be performers or writers, folks who work in film or media. So I really want to just take a pause and talk about what it means to develop your personal brand within the context of a visual space, a visual identity. Um, so what is this? It's the thing that helps to easily and consistently define, express, and communicate who you are as an individual. And you can think of this as kind of a common thread that is running through your online presence as well as your actual practice as an artist. So again, that's where some of those adjectives also come into play, that second prompt. So the way that this can come through in your website is by thinking about things like the fonts you're using, the colors that you're using, the tone that you're writing with, um, thinking about the key themes and the values in your work and how those translate into visual aspects of a website platform that is navigable for your community, right? It is important to consider your audience when you are thinking about conveying your creative identity through the development of some like branded materials or marketing materials. Like essentially, right, our website is a place where we are marketing our work. And so considering who your audience is, I think, is an important part of that. Also, it's important to think about authenticity and consistency within this case. Your personal brand and your visual identity, this is something that is uniquely you, and it allows you to distinguish yourself from everyone else. What is unique about who you are and what you do in your practice? And your brand is about making yourself known for those skills and talents, right? You likely already have a visual identity, a personal, brand, so to speak, without even realizing it, maybe. So when we reflect upon like, are there colors that, if I'm a visual artist, are there colors that consistently come up in the work that I'm making? Or like, are there fonts that I gravitate toward? This is something that can also be applicable when we're thinking about materials across um, across media. So things like a business card, things like, a postcard maybe that we're creating for an upcoming exhibition that we have or an upcoming opportunity. Perhaps you're a writer and this is about developing, the cover of your book. So thinking about like colors, fonts, attitude, and how we translate who we are as artists into this visual space, right? So, oops, I'm going to go back one slide there. So again, just really being able to think about it as like an extension of yourself and your creative practice. Some helpful tips might be things like, looking at other artists' websites, not to copy them. I strongly encourage integrity, creative integrity, but it is okay to be inspired. Like, wow, I really admire this person's approach. How can I, sort of make this applicable to what I'm trying to achieve on my website? You don't have to start from scratch, right? You can look for inspiration. Again, asking yourself about the key themes and values in your work. That's a really helpful place to start. And again, being true to yourself and being choosing something that you feel that could be consistent for you. I don't think that you need to choose something and marry it, for the rest of your life. But I do think that in the interest of time and being kind to yourself, it's a good idea to choose um, elements of a website, a visual identity, a brand, a personal brand that you can maybe commit to for 2 years. And that way you're not feeling like, oh gosh, this color isn't really me. I really need to go back and change this. It's like, just pick something that feels like you can live with it. And that's going to help you, I think, to be able to um, move through this process with consistency and build something that is offering you um, a visual identity that can be recognizable to your audience as well. So we're going to dive into what some of our site's key elements are, and we're going to cover a whole bunch of different things here. So essentially, what makes a website successful? This is going to differ for each of us, right? Our goals are going to be different, but there are some common threads that I really want to call out. Primarily, and this was mentioned by a few folks in the chat already, we need our website to be easy to navigate. And this means both on desktop and on our phones, right? So many people are seeing art, are looking at websites on their phone. And so it's really important to choose a platform, choose a website builder where it allows you to be able to customize the view from desktop to mobile. That's really important and a good thing to kind of check as you go, as you're building out your site. It's also a place where your identity as an artist and your personality and your work are front and center. You and your work should absolutely be the focus of your site, and the design that you choose should really complement and not distract from your work. We're going to look at a couple of examples of websites, people with vastly different approaches, but I think something that you'll recognize is that their work is front and center. A successful website is also kept updated. This is something that can be kind of challenging, as I know that we are all busy and probably juggling a lot of different parts of what it means to be in a creative field. But keeping your website updated with content that is current to your work, that's a very important part of kind of coming off as somebody who is engaged in their practice, and somebody who's taking themselves and their work seriously. It's also easy to understand. This can come through in tone and the language that you're using throughout your website, and like a nice reminder that maybe not everyone who's coming to your website has seen your work before, or maybe knows about the field that you're in. So being sure to use language that people from all walks of life can maybe identify with, understand, and be able to really learn about your work through, I think, is really important. And then also, it's an informative place, right? Maybe you're sharing about your process, who you are as an artist. Maybe you're talking about your background. Maybe you come from a really process heavy field. If that is something that you want to share with people, I think that is a wonderful way to really make your site unique to you, and be a place where information is shared and help people to feel more connected to your work and to the processes that you're exploring, right? Any questions? Is everyone feeling okay so far? Cool. Thanks for the head nod. Feel free, if anything comes up, you can drop it in the chat. I'm all ears. So thinking about a domain name, choosing a strong and clear, to the point domain name is, I think, an integral part of building an artist website. Your domain name is more than just your online address, in my humble opinion. It is part of that identity, part of that brand identity, and part of the public face of your business. I know that not everybody is going to identify with this when I say, your artistic brand. People say like, oh, I'm not a brand. It's like, I understand where you're coming from, but also as a working artist, you are a business owner. So keeping that in mind while you're choosing your domain name can be a really essential part to sort of helping folks to be able to find you. Keeping in mind that it's not just other artists necessarily. These could be potential clients, these could be customers, and making sure that your brand, or excuse me, that your domain name speaks to who you are and what you're up to. A strong domain name can also help to optimize your SEO, your search engine optimization, and ensures that new audiences will be able to find your work. So make sure that your domain name communicates the intention of your website clearly. I would recommend that it's short and memorable if possible. I would avoid numbers or dashes, just so that way it's easy to say, easy to remember. And I would also do some field research and make sure that there isn't a really similar company or similar, or even a vastly different company or artist or brand that is using almost the same URL. So just do a little bit of looking before making a big commitment, right? Because once you buy a domain name, hopefully it's something that you hold on to for quite a while. Some examples of, I think, a good domain name for an artist would be yourname.com, like lydiaboss.com, or maybe your name art, or if you're a writer, like your name writing or yournameliterary.com. So I know that sounds really literal, but just remember that you want this to be able to resonate with different audiences and be a really kind of succinct summary of what folks can expect when they get to your site. Okay. Choosing a layout or a template, different website platforms, when you are exploring different website builders, you are going to be able to look through basically a catalog of templates and for you to choose from. And I really want to emphasize, you do not need to use a preconceived layout. You do not need to opt in to a template. However, I do strongly recommend that you explore the options and really consider what they are. Unless you are a web designer, I think that using a template that a website designer has built out um, for customers to be able to use and customize, I think that that is a really strong way to build out an elegant site with, I'm going to say, minimal, air quotes, effort. It still takes effort. You are putting in the work to customize the entire site so that way it is relevant and related to your practice. But starting with a blank page can feel really intimidating. And there are web designers who have put in the work to create different platforms for you to start with. So strongly recommend considering that. So to select a template that is right for you, I would start by asking yourself some questions like, what is my style? How does this site represent my work, my passion? Does this feel like me? Does this feel like something that I would be into or something that, resonates with me? What is the site being used for? Again, going back to those fundamental questions of like, what are my goals for this site? Is this a site that is just a simple portfolio? Is that enough for me? Or do I need other elements included, like a store? Do I need to have a music player? Do I need to be able to embed videos? On a lot of different website builders, there are like a la carte options. But I think that by taking the time to explore what those options are before making a commitment is a really important thing to do. Again, asking yourself about your brand identity, thinking about how the site represents you visually. How does the site link your personal style and the style of your work to the rest of the world? Example, like if your work is really clean and simple, pick a template that will complement that. If your work is really emotive and expressive and really like experimental or kind of chaotic, maybe pick a site that highlights that while still being navigable and approachable. I also think, again, the question of what is your time frame? How much time am I willing to commit to building this out? So choosing a site template that you appreciate and can kind of stick to. So that way in a year, you're not like, wow, I put 50 hours into that, but I need to redo the whole thing because it's just not me. If you slow down at this stage, maybe before you have, I'm not sure what stage you're at, maybe you have something already started, but I think if you slow down and ask yourself some of these questions, it'll help you to have something that feels like you and something that you can commit to for a little period of time. Something that comes up a lot when we're talking with people at different stages of their career is like, I want to build an artist website, but I'm an emerging artist. Maybe I don't have that much content to choose from yet. This is where I say the template you choose can really help you out and complement that. Do not choose a site that has a ton of buttons or pages. If you are somebody who is currently working with a little bit less content, that is totally okay. Maybe instead you choose something that is kind of like a long scroll format where you can show things on a single page, and then there's a place for folks to learn more about you and contact you. So just a reminder that choosing the right layout for you is a really important part of designing a successful website. And again, it's just going to be unique to you and to your particular needs. So a little bit of information, about design and content, right? We need to be thinking about the design of the site. I've said it a few times now, making sure that this is easy to navigate, making sure that you're considering your personal brand as you are moving through the process from page to page, right? Can I be consistent with the fonts I'm choosing, the colors I'm using? Maybe part of your brand expression, your creative voice is that you use, 6 different colors. Like if that's you, I say go for it, but do it consistently across each page of your site. Um, Something else that's really important to call out here is accessibility. Remember that people with different needs, different backgrounds, different abilities are going to hopefully be finding your work and appreciating your site. You want to be thinking critically about readability. Consider this when choosing the fonts, the colors. If you have any doubt about whether or not something is readable, I would strongly consider that you do some research about what color combinations are best for readability, what font sizes are best for readability. And again, these will just help to inform, the success of your site and help you to connect with as many people as possible. And again, content, showcase your work, focus on the artwork that you have spent so much time investing in. That should really be the shining point of your website. Clearly communicate about your art and your artistic practice using language, using, maybe you have an about page where you really get to dive in to the details of how your work is made or what your background is, what's informing your practice. That's a really exciting opportunity that we have to be able to connect with folks clearly and authentically. Again, really consider your audience from everything to like the language you're using, the colors you're using, and also just remembering that maybe somebody is learning about your work for the first time and you want to make them feel welcome. That was another adjective that you all threw into the chat, welcoming. I want to be welcoming on my site. I love that. And again, make sure your content and your structure can be consistent. Okay, we're gonna switch gears, and I'm still sharing my screen here. I'm gonna show you a few different examples. Again, each of these folks has a very different approach to their website. And if you're comfortable, if you want to unmute, if you want to drop it in the chat, I'm going to kind of click around. Maybe I'll point out a few things, but like maybe you can share with me things that you appreciate or things that you notice about these sites and why maybe they feel successful to you or what feels resonant, right? Okay, the first artist that I'm going to share is an artist whose name is Mariella Luz, and they are based in Olympia, Washington. When I land on their page, this is where it takes me. So again, if there's anything you notice, you can drop it in the chat. I'm just going to scroll. I'll click here in a moment. Right on the landing page, we get a lot of information, short and sweet and to the point. Love that. Very soothing. You get a sense of like, this person has a really clean aesthetic, kind of quiet. We're right away able to get into images of their work. Yeah, contemplative, thoughtful, love this. I know, I love seeing the food. I love seeing the work like in use. That's really exciting. Particularly, yeah, makes me hungry too, dinner time. Particularly for somebody who's working in craft, this is a really beautiful exploration of showing the work in its highly functional state, right? Yeah, also using people. Love it. Down toward the bottom, you immediately get to see where you can access this person, through social media, where we can find their work. Really straightforward, clean, friendly. And then I scrolled past it before because I wanted to keep showing, this homepage, but they give you the opportunity right up front to get your hands dirty and purchase their work. So if your goal is to have an online store, we're going to talk about that a little bit in a few minutes, but being able to link to your Etsy is a great way to do that through a button. There are also going to be templates that offer you to be able to embed something as an online store. And we're going to look at another artist who offers that momentarily, but this is a really high functioning option, right? Cool. That's M. Bueno Pottery from Olympia. Okay, the next artist we're looking at is Seattle-based artist Tarika Waters. And I'm just going to pause here for a moment. If you have any words, any adjectives that come to mind right off the bat, I'd love to hear them. Yeah, like who doesn't want to explore this website? This is really fun. It's friendly. I'm curious. I'm like, what am I going to see here, right? So we have a menu on the left-hand side of the screen. Ooh, love it. Tropical. That's what we're talking about. I'm going to go ahead and dive into one of these menu options. My internet is a little slow. Thanks for your understanding. I clicked thank you, Miss Pam. The image changes here in our disco ball. And we get into options for video. I have such limited time, even though I know we could all sit here and appreciate Tarika's work, I'm going to go back to their homepage. Again, so you have this ability to kind of like experience their work. Scrolling through, you get to, there's a video embed that brings you directly to that experience. I can also scroll and learn more about the artist's different projects. There's a description, there's language that's easy to read. It is fun. It is kind of wild. I'm like, what is going on? There's a lot of action here. There's video, there's still image, there's a lot of fun colors. This person has put a lot of time and effort and consideration into their visual brand identity, right? And Tarika makes very high art, but again, she's thinking about that brand recognition. I'll also show you an option here that is a store embed. So this website template, this website builder offers you not through a third-party app or a third-party link to Etsy. This is directly through this site. You can put these products into a cart and leave with them or check out. So kind of nice. Also very important, we have an about page where you can learn more about this individual. Really, short and kind of to the point, but if you want to click in and read more, you have that opportunity. And then of course, a place where you can contact them. They have a form that you can fill out. Not everybody shares their personal email or their studio email here, so they request a form. But again, on the whole, really fun experience navigating this site. Okay, finally, I'm going to show you the website of writer Gabrielle Bates. And Gabrielle is a writer based in Seattle. And I just thought it was really important to show, sort of a literary approach. The homepage is their about page. And I think that that's really super smart. They also offer a press kit and a place to check out their CV if that's what you're here for, interested in learning more. I'm just scrolling. You get to see some of their other projects as well. Any adjectives that stand out about some of the structure here or kind of what our initial reactions are? I agree. It does feel really personal. Yeah, feels like this person really took their time. If I click in, it's going to transport me to the publication. So not everybody uploads individual pieces, onto all pages of their site. It is totally okay for things to function as buttons that transport you to other spaces to view the work. In this case, absolutely. But yeah, I feel like we kind of get a sense of what this person's personality is through here. I also wanted to share this site because they have a blog. And again, it's like really simple and beautiful, but still through the colors, through the fonts, through the layout even, I'm getting a sense of what this artist is about. I'll also say this website is updated, right? We have current content that is being shared, which again is just a really important way. Maybe this is how folks stay updated on what you're up to in your work. Maybe this is just a way for folks to, learn about new projects that you're exploring, etc. But I love the idea of having a blog if that's something that works for you. Alrighty. So I want to be sure to get through all of my content. I'm gonna do my best. I will definitely be staying on past 6:30 for a couple of minutes just to make sure that we answer any questions as well. But just a couple more things I wanted to be sure to address this evening. This idea of third-party apps, like what is a third-party app? What does it mean when somebody talks about this within the context of their website? It's an application that's been created by a developer that isn't the manufacturer of the app that you're, or excuse me, of the website platform, right? So it's an additional thing that is being either embedded or linked to. So this, a really simple example of this would be like a social media bar or social media options like Facebook, Instagram, X, etc. Um, there are a lot of different reasons that you should consider integrating third-party apps into your website. And again, many of the website builders that are out there, they are going to sort of have that as like a very easily added, a la carte option to any website. And most of the time, these applications can really just help to make your website feel interactive and increase customer engagement, even sometimes conversations. Maybe somebody learns about your work through Instagram. They then go to your website, and from there, they can get to your Facebook, or they can get to your Etsy page. They can get to your YouTube channel where you're sharing different aspects of your practice. So it's kind of about thinking, you're being like a connector. You're connecting people to these different areas of your practice. They can definitely enhance the user experience and support your rankings again when it comes to search engine optimization, meaning that you're easily, found when somebody is Googling you or, looking you up through a search engine, and can help to get your information in front of new people by, again, linking to these third-party apps. And of course, depending on your specific needs, maybe social media is all you'd like to integrate, if that. Maybe you're someone, though, who does a lot of art fairs and you need to integrate Google Maps into your site to be able to make sure that folks can find you at the different locations that you visit regularly. So that's just kind of an example of why you might want to consider um, going, through that extra step and linking to something like Google Maps or like a YouTube or an Etsy page. I mentioned the blog earlier. I think this is a really kind of exciting opportunity where on your website, you can have a space where you share your knowledge and your thoughts and more of like who you are with your audience. This can be your website as a whole. Maybe your website is just a blog, and um, it also could just be a single page on a site that has other content. It just depends on if that is something that even feels like it's authentic to you. And whether it's for your business or your art practice, a good blog can definitely help you to connect with audiences and establish stronger ties with your supporters in your community. You can think about sort of establishing yourself as an expert, as an artist and creative. Maybe you are a real expert in your field, and this is a place where you get to share some of that expertise with others. Um, it's a place where you can make your content feel personal and be used as a storytelling platform. Again, this is a place where you can improve your SEO, search engine optimization, because having regularly updated content does help to ensure that that site um, gets has a higher SEO rating. It makes it easier for your site to find if it's something that you are interacting with on the back end regularly, producing new content. So these are all good things to keep in mind. Other questions to maybe ask yourself if you're preparing to start a blog might be, what are my goals? Again, what do I want to get out of this part of my platform? Who do I want to reach? And again, thinking about like style and voice. What kind of tone am I going to be using? What is the tone of voice that I'm writing in here or sharing information in? And then also, like, am I going to need a strategy for accountability? If I have one blog post from 3 years ago, maybe that's not, maybe that's fine. But I would recommend creating maybe like a little accountability calendar for yourself. So that way you can keep that content updated as you're, continuing on with your artistic practice. A couple of thoughts about integrating an online store. Who you are is really going to, drive, the answer to this question. Everyone's going to have different goals and objectives. Selling art online can be a fantastic opportunity. However, it is really important to be mindful of some of the pros and cons that come with that. Some of the pros that I call out are that it is really low cost to get things started, compared to a brick and mortar store where you are having to invest in a space. This is relatively very low cost to get your online store up and running. Again, you have complete control of the way that this work is presented and framed. And there's no inventory investment. Essentially, if you have an image that represents a product, maybe you run a production studio, you're a ceramicist or a glassmaker or a jeweler, you just have a single image and then you can produce the work as it sells, which is really, valuable and exciting. You have an unlimited reach to new clients and larger audiences as well. So these are all really great things that can come from operating an online store as an artist. Some things that I would maybe frame as cons, or just things, maybe I wouldn't even frame it as cons. Maybe it's like things that I would really encourage you to consider are that you really have to put the time into building a high functioning store. Even if you are using a template and you're using a platform that is kind of giving you all the tools, you still really need to be mindful of making that space very high functioning. So that way folks have a positive experience when they're interacting with your site and purchasing your work. Also, updates. Ideally, you should be keeping up with marketing tasks, updating things on at least a monthly basis in order to drive traffic, earn repeat business, and keeping your store up to date. I'll also add that if you are an artist that is working with a gallery, your gallery may have strong opinions about you selling your work on your website, right? This is a decision. If you have representation, it's an important thing to be able to discuss with that individual or with that entity. So that way, that you have an agreement about that you have a common understanding of what is and isn't okay. You would never want to like undercut your gallery by selling something on your website for a different price than they're selling it for, and their space. So just having that conversation and being aware that that is something that many galleries may have strong opinions about. So just something to know about. Just to finish up here with some best practices, again, these are things that I've maybe mentioned, but just really ensuring that you keep that site updated. There are so many benefits to that. You come off as being really caring and professional when it comes to your work. It also boosts how easily folks can find you. I would recommend continuing to evolve your online personality and visual brand identity as you grow and change. Your website, I hope, grows and changes as well, of course, in a way that is sustainable for you. Keep in touch with your audience. If folks sign up for a newsletter, make sure you're putting a newsletter out there. If folks reach out to you and ask a question or have an inquiry about your work, absolutely respond to them. It's wonderful if folks want to connect and just something to kind of take seriously. Using visual elements on the back end, it's really important to use keywords when you're uploading photos of your work. The way that search engines work, they don't search by image, they search by word. So when you upload a photo, there's an opportunity on the back end of the website to describe what it is the photo is. Absolutely take the time to do that. It'll help folks to be able to find you. Evolve your site as technology evolves and changes. This is really essential to things continuing to be able to function well. And again, keeping your site accessible and a design that is relatively simple or at least easy to navigate. A couple of other things to consider as we wrap up here. Upload new work as you make it. I again would recommend creating a schedule for yourself for accountability when it comes to things like a blog or other content that feel like, maybe, upcoming events. Like if you have a portion of your website that's called upcoming events, be sure that it's something that is current, is kept current. Also, again, look at other websites, look at web design, look at contemporary graphic design, look for color combinations and fonts and things that inspire you and adapt them to be the right fit for your website. I love getting input from others, asking folks for input, asking, studio mates or friends or mentors, making sure that your site is easy to navigate and, making sure that you're not putting anything out there that is a broken link or maybe a spelling error or a typo, just really slowing down and taking your time when it comes to building out this site. Again, once you're finished with your website, shout it from the rooftop, share it with your friends, share it with people to make sure that you're getting your work out there and building your network because people also want to celebrate you. I think that that's a really important thing to remember. These are a couple of website builders that I'm going to go out on a limb and recommend. I'm going to be honest and say that I've only worked with Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly, but I have done some research and I've heard that SmugMug is great. I've heard that Adobe Portfolio can be really fun. But speaking from personal experience, both Squarespace and Wix were really intuitive. And I found them to be really effective website builders and also have options at different price points that hopefully work for folks. So this is how you can get in touch with me. That's my email, lydia@artisttrust.org. I'm going to stay on here to answer questions if there are any. And again, I hope that you can walk away from this experience tonight with a new sort of understanding of what an artist's website really has the potential to be. It's not just a space for showcasing your work. I think there's like a lot of other cool things that can come from building out a space where you're in control of the narrative of your artistic practice.